Hey everyone, this is season 2 of the Stamp Show, and I've got Tate from Community Labs here with me to chat. Hey Tate, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for the opportunity, Tom.
Yeah, this is I'm very excited about this conversation. Especially, it's been I think almost a year since the whole venture studio of Community Labs really launched. And so maybe if you could just talk a little bit about the all of the awesome stuff you guys shipped this year.
For sure. Yeah, it's been a really busy year. A lot has happened to say the least, I think, in the entire ecosystem more generally. But with Community Labs, um, you know, we originally had gotten started and set down the path of creating a venture studio because we saw so many opportunities to build out developer tooling and infrastructure in the ecosystem. The first few months were optimized around, getting Arweave in a place where it would be as easy as possible for anyone from like Web 2 or Web 3 to kind of come in and understand Arweave and be able to use its technology. Um, and so our product strategy at the time was very much focused around building use cases of the Permaweb that enabled that and made that funnel simpler for people. So earlier this year, we launched Arweave Kit, which is intended to be like a one-stop shop. If you're looking to use Arweave, you can integrate Arweave Kit and get access to, I think, 7 or 8 different protocols in the ecosystem, all kind of different types of tooling and infrastructure depending on your needs. But the idea is that you shouldn't have to know what those different types of things are. You should just know that the functionality is there for you to tap into if you want to. So Arweave Kit is like a one place, the only place you need to go to be able to do that. That launched earlier this year, which we're pretty pumped for. One of our developers, founder of Arconnect, Martin, actually launched Arweave Wallet Kit on top of that as well. So as an increasing number of people are building out different interfaces and ways to store value for other users in the Arweave ecosystem, we wanted to build something sort of like Wallet Connect that would be like a unified interface for developers to integrate support for. So that, if you're a developer and you're building an application that's Arweave native, you wouldn't have to make a design decision or implementation decision behind, what are the pros and cons of supporting Arconnect versus Arweave.app and any of the other things that could exist between those two. So we're pretty pumped for that as well, to continue just lowering the barrier to entry for people looking to support Arweave. And then we also launched Othent as a developer tool, which enables anyone from that has a Google account to now log into an Arweave application and create a smart contract. So the idea is account abstraction. So instead of these users having wallets, they have warp contracts. And whenever you're trying to use an application in Arweave, your Google account can control this smart contract, which can send interactions to those applications. So it was, I think, the one of the first implementations of account abstraction that we've seen in the ecosystem so far, which was exciting to pursue. And now, at this point with our product strategy, we've kind of transitioned a bit. We feel comfortable with where tooling and infrastructure is. I think it's, we accomplished a lot of the goals that we had set out to originally with Community Labs from a tooling and infrastructure perspective for Arweave. And so now the game is, how can we use Arweave in a unique way to bootstrap the community and bring people from outside of the Arweave ecosystem and ideally also outside of crypto into Arweave, and using Arweave native tech. So we're building 3 products that kind of fit into that strategy. Building a stable coin, building a tokenized real estate play, and then also building out a decentralized GitHub called Protocol Land. But I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, and again, Arweave Kit being kind of this one-stop shop because before Arweave Kit, you had to go to several different protocols and ingest them into your application, and then use them. So having Arweave kit, and I know you are currently supporting plugins, so the community can evolve Arweave kit to fit their kind of custom preferences. So that's very cool. And congrats on the launch of RConnect 1.0. I know that was a big push, and you and Martin and everyone, very awesome what you've done there. And Othent, again, I agree. Giving people easy onboarding to this incredible ecosystem is super important. So that account abstraction and really cool how that was implemented, and the wallet kit being able to have a one UI that's consistent across applications will just make users you know less intimidating on using the Permaweb. So that's pretty awesome. Um, Stable coin. What does a stable coin look like in your mind on the Permaweb?
Yeah. You aren't the first one to ask that question. So I think that I guess to give some extra context on the way that we think about that and kind of why stablecoin to begin with. You know, because Arweave tokens can't be custodied inside of the SmartWeave environment. We believe heavily that SmartWeave makes sense as an application layer, and that Arweave makes sense as an application layer. And so we wanted to think through what are ways that we can introduce a store of value for the SmartWeave environment. And you got a few options. You can either bridge things in, you can build stable coins, you can wrap things. And I think that for us, stablecoin makes sense because there's a lot of capital in the Arweave ecosystem that resides in the R token. Um, but people that are invested in the Arweave ecosystem don't necessarily have much that they can do with their Arweave tokens, besides just hold them and upload data with them. And don't get me wrong, those are two incredible use cases, as like the protocol was created for that. But in other places that have bootstrapped economies, there are other things that you can do, like staking your tokens to generate some type of yield on what you've put up. And so the idea is replicating the way that Curve works and the way their stablecoin operates to enable people to deposit some type of wrapped Arweave token into the SmartWeave environment as collateral, and pull out a stable coin as a unit of exchange for people to do what they need to inside of Arweave. So it's kind of aimed at solving for two challenges. The first would be a store of value. We want people to feel you know good about being able to hold value in the SmartWeave environment, and so we wanted to create an option for that in the form of a stable coin. We're also, as a part of creating that stable coin, the plan is to create some type of mechanism for people to be wrapping Arweave tokens into SmartWeave. So that'll be an option too. And then the third reason for it is for the people that have Arweave tokens and want to be able to do something with those tokens. This would provide a potential use case for people if they're interested in participating more in the application layer on top of Arweave, as opposed to just passively holding the token.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds very exciting. And the other thing on the what's next journey, and totally agree. It's time to really with all the dev tools we now have, it's time to really kind of make that push to get more of the users into the system by building consumer apps. But one thing that caught my eye was protocol land. Can you share a few statements on that? Like you know what do you see that as? And then just the next question is, do you envision development teams like putting everything on chain on Arweave? Is that kind of something that you see us doing as users of the community in the future?
Yeah. I think that for protocol land, the way that we think about that is my introduction to Arweave actually was building a developer tool called Nest.land that enabled developers to store their code on Arweave, and it kind of repurposed Arweave as a like a content delivery network for devs. And the reason that that was appealing is because for the group of people that we were building for, at the time they were using like GitHub to store their code and share their code with others. And GitHub's good, but the problem is if you become dependent on one of those code bases, and that code base is removed or it's updated or changed in any way, your code could potentially break because you're dependent on that GitHub link, or if GitHub were to go down. And so, my intro to Arweave was building Nest.land positioned to kind of solve for this problem. And what we realized was that um, there are a lot of developers that could actually like when you pitch decentralization to people, for some it rings a bell, and for some it doesn't necessarily resonate, but for this developer community it resonated very strongly because it gave them the ability to rely on something that they weren't previously able to rely on for a sense of security. And so the aim with protocol land is kind of continuing to go down that path beyond just modules that developers would want to share with others. The goal more generally is how do we make building in a decentralized environment sustainable, and how do we make building in an open source environment sustainable? So as I'm sure you've probably seen the meme of like on Reddit. It's you've got like this guy in his basement that's building this really cool web framework, and people think that it's very cool, and so they start layering on top of it with the composability that you get with open source software. But this guy, he's contributing to what he's working on because it's just a passion project. It's not necessarily something that he's able to do sustainably. And the interesting thing is like, you get like Microsoft or IBM depending on this stuff, but it's all hinged upon this guy in his basement, just like coding on nights and weekends. And so protocol land is for that guy in his basement. The idea is how can we introduce incentives that can make open source sustainable with things like the universal content license, and you know UDL, UDM, all of those concepts, and creating a place also where decentralized teams can have these code bases and not have to worry about them going offline or disappearing at any point in time. And ideally getting to a place where if a maintainer of a code base decides to step away from that code base, how can we introduce incentives for other people in the community to still be able to collaborate and contribute to that code base without it needing to have a maintainer in the first place? So that's sort of the big direction at a high level that we're interested in taking protocol land and seeing where we can get with that. But yeah, we're pretty excited. And to answer your question of do we see code, all code and open source living on Arweave in the future, I would say we hope so. We want to get in that direction because Arweave is really the only place that code is forever going to be safe and accessible to other people.
Yeah, 100%, and super excited about that vision and the implementation of that because again, like you said, other repositories, are kind of SaaS model based. So when when they're no longer sustainable, the data will disappear. So that sounds exciting. Speaking of that, I know that you think about Arweave and the Permaweb, and every time I've talked to you, you've always had a few things that you'd like to see implemented in the future. Do you have a few to give us, to give kind of the builders out there that may be looking to really get into Arweave, some ideas that are projects they could be working on?
Yeah. Well, I would say if you're interested in building on Arweave and you're not sure what to work on, feel free to reach out to me. I do my best to respond to people that have that kind of interest on Twitter or in DMs on Discord. But at a high level, I think that there's a lot of potentially interesting use cases with provenance in the AI world, and so thinking about how can we use Arweave as a layer to back up the data powering artificial intelligence and relying on Arweave as a source of truth for provenance use cases. I think there's a whole world out there that's yet to be explored with that stuff. Also continuing to build out use cases of the universal data license is something that I think we all need to see more of in the ecosystem, and so we're super excited about putting capital and efforts towards people that are doing things like that and plugging into what already exists with SmartWeave. I would say that those are probably the two main things, but at a high level, our priority right now and our product strategy relies on us building out use cases for Arweave that solve a critical need for a group of people outside of the Arweave ecosystem, that Arweave is capable of helping solve for in a unique way. So all of the things that we're pursuing or putting capital towards right now kind of fit under that thesis. And I think that if anyone has ideas of things that they would like to pursue with that, feel free to reach out as well, because we're doing a lot of brainstorming internally too. But I'll leave it at that at a high level.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you again, and really look forward and to all these great things coming up this year. And again, I'll drop your contact information in the show notes. And yeah, any last words before we kind of wrap up?
Thanks for the opportunity, Tom. I appreciate you having me. Fun to be here and talk about this stuff. Yeah, if you're building in the ecosystem, get in touch. Would love to hear what you're working on. And we're a venture studio, so our game is building and deploying capital inside of Arweave. So get in touch. But yeah, thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tate. Have a good day.
You too.